Kaine Parker is a fictional character, a superhero and former supervillain in the Marvel Comics who serves as an ally, an enemy, and a foil of Spider-Man and Ben Reilly. He first appeared in Web of Spider-Man number 119, and is the Jackal's first failed attempt at cloning Peter Parker. The character was created by Terry Kavanagh and Stephen Butler. He first appeared as the new Scarlet Spider in the Marvel .11 shot in November 2011 before starring in his own series with the second volume of Scarlet Spider. Publication history. Fictional character biography. The birth of Kaine. Kaine is the Jackal's first temporary success at cloning Peter Parker but, due to the flawed cloning process, is left deformed and mentally unstable. Kaine is later identified by the Jackal as Parker 3.0. The implications of this are unknown. The Jackal discards Kaine because the clone starts showing early signs of the degeneration process, and Kaine experiences a strong feeling of rejection similar to that between a father and son. Kaine realizes the partial degeneration also caused a slight amplification of the powers he inherited from Peter. Not only has his strength, speed, and agility been copied from the original Peter's, but he gains a precognitive sense that shows him flashes of the future. He also possesses a mark of Kaine, a burning touch that he uses to leave eaten-away handprints on his victims' faces. Though never explicitly stated within the story, in a later interview former Spider-Man editor-writer Glenn Greenberg revealed that the mark of Kaine was meant to be another analog of one of Spider-Man's powers, namely the ability to cling to walls. The Jackal goes on to create a new, better clone, the man who would become Ben Reilly. When the Jackal uses Reilly against Peter, the ensuing battle leaves Reilly and the Jackal for dead. They both manage to survive. The Jackal places himself into suspended animation in a cloning pod to awaken later. And Reilly leaves New York. Behind the scenes, Norman Osborn manages to have the files on Ben and Peter switched, so the Jackal would think Peter is the clone and Ben is the real deal. Consulting the Jackal's files, Kaine also believes the same, so he follows Ben Reilly through his exile. For a time, he finds love in the arms of police detective Louise Kennedy of Salt Lake City, until he discovers she is working for the criminals. This revelation, coupled with Kaine's increased cellular degeneration, pushes Kaine even further towards insanity and he kills Louise. Kaine continues to stalk Ben, making it appear as though Janine Godby, Ben's new love, has committed suicide. Kaine, hoping to give the man who he thinks is the clone the life he could never have, frames Ben for a number of murders he commits since both men have the same fingerprints. Later flashback scenes reveal that Kaine worked as a bounty hunter for a time, being briefly dispatched to eliminate Kraven the Hunter. Kaine also experienced a vision via his enhanced spider sense that Kraven would kill him in the future. Despite the two engaging in a brutal confrontation, Kraven even briefly mistook Kaine for Spider-Man due to a vague recognition of Spider-Man's template in Kaine. Both survived despite Kaine burying Kraven alive. Kraven dug himself out after 3 days, but his friend and manservant was killed by Kaine during the fight. Trial of Peter Parker. Peter Parker is eventually tried and convicted for Kaine's crimes because they have the same fingerprints. Although Peter goes to prison for some time, Ben arranges to take his place in prison. Kaine wanders New York, defeating and executing scores of Spider-Man's enemies, including the Grim Hunter and Dr. Octopus. They grow fearful of him and form coalitions to protect themselves proactively, including the short-lived Sinister Seven, but meet with little success. Peter wants Kaine to stand for what he has done, but Kaine initially refuses. The two fight and end up getting dragged into a mock trial where Spider-Man is on trial, Kaine is his defense attorney, Carnage is the prosecutor, several Ravencroft inmates are the jury, and a powerful being known as Judas Traveler is the judge. During the one-sided trial, Kaine tries to physically fight off all those who were against Spider-Man before Traveler returns them to their previous place of battle. After an incident involving a superpowered villainess named Stunner, a weakened Kaine still refuses to confess to his crimes. Spider-Man responds by knocking Kaine out and webbing him up before heading to the courthouse. Kaine reawakens before they arrive and struggles again with Spider-Man in refusing to confess. At this point, Kaine admits that he's done everything to protect Peter's life and reveals that he is the first clone of Peter, now partially degenerated. Spider-Man decides that if Kaine will not reveal the truth, then he will reveal his true identity to the entire courtroom and end everything. Kaine pleads for Peter not to do this and eventually gives in to revealing the real truth about the murders and the mark of Kaine. Maximum clonage. After Peter gives in to the news that he is a clone and Ben is the true Peter Parker, he allies himself with the Jackal. Kaine refuses to let him throw his life away. He confronts the Jackal with the full intent of destroying him, when the Jackal manipulates his mind once more by leading Kaine to believe he will be cured of the degeneration process. Once Jackal reveals he has lied again, Kaine leaves feeling dejected. He goes back to Mary Jane for answers, and after a conversation of power and responsibility, Kaine returns to the Jackal's lab in time to assist Ben in a battle against numerous Spider clones. In the ensuing battle, Spider-Side impales him with a spike taken from nearby machinery, seriously injuring and possibly killing him. The Jackal showed a moment of fatherly concern for Kaine, asking why after everything, Kaine would save him. Kaine dies telling Jackal, "You gave me life," and Jackal lets go of him indifferently, calling him pathetic, and a waste of bad chemicals for saving his life over such a simple reason, but then eyes a regeneration pod, and remarks, "But even bad chemicals can be put to good use." Redemption. During Reilly's time as Spider-Man, some of the world's strongest fighters are pitted against one another in a fighting competition called the Great Game, a fighting tournament in which wealthy people wager on the fighters for their amusement. One of the game's main sponsors, James Johnsmere, finds the pod containing the revived Kaine, and decides to initiate him into the competition, sending the Rhino to fight him. After Kaine's refusal and escape, thanks to temporary partner Shannon, Johnsmere still attempts to involve Kaine by allowing other game competitors to attack him. Spider-Man interferes in the skirmish and gets sidetracked by Joystick and Polestar while Kaine puts a near-fatal beating on Rhino and escapes with Shannon. Before they are able to get away, Spider-Man manages to tag Shannon with a tracer and he pursues them once Polestar and Rhino are taken into custody. He finds them moments before the police, but after an incident that threatened to kill the officers, Kaine and Shannon escape again. This time, Kaine's destination is Johnsmere's headquarters. Spider-Man finds them once again after Kaine manages to single-handedly destroy all of Johnsmere's rooftop security defenses, but once inside, Johnsmere reveals that Shannon, who was still working for Johnsmere during the entire ordeal, has been manipulating and deceiving Kaine. Kaine, not wanting to become a puppet of anyone ever again, tries to kill Shannon but was persuaded by Spider-Man not to do so. Kaine leaves and vows to take down every sponsor of the Great Game. During a later encounter with Ben Reilly, in which Janine Godby returns to the man she loved, Kaine finally brings himself to let go of his hatred for his brother, even saving Ben's life after nearly leaving him to die in a burning diner. Encouraged by his brother's example, Kaine hands himself over to the law, as Janine does the same, both accepting that they have to face their pasts to find any peace with themselves. At that point, it is revealed that his degeneration is killing him, and Kaine is incarcerated in some type of hospital prison with other killers. Initially lamenting his situation and accepting his imminent death, Kaine resolves to fight after seeing hallucinations of Ben Reilly, Jackal, Louise, himself, and Peter Parker. Several months later, he is shown escaping from jail alongside many other superpowered criminals in an issue of Thunderbolts. Kaine breaks out to try to stop Norman Osborn after finding out that he is still alive, has masterminded the clone saga, and killed his brother Ben. A few issues of Spider-Man briefly mention Kaine working against Osborn's agents in Southern Europe. The last mention of Kaine is an offhand line from one of Osborn's men saying that Kaine has been dealt with, without elaborating on what that meant. Return. Kaine later appears in New York City, attacking Spider-Man as he tried to track down Raptor. He reveals that he has sought Raptor out, hoping that he could cure his cellular degeneration, and attacks Spider-Man to keep him from the villain. He also seems to hold some enmity towards Peter, perhaps after finding out he is the actual original Spider-Man. He also is one of the few people to have remembered Peter's secret identity after the worldwide mind wipe of this knowledge by Doctor Strange, Mr. Fantastic, and Iron Man. When Raptor attacks Harry Osborn and Peter's cousins at Aunt May's house, Kaine appears, having been working with Raptor the whole time. He exposes Peter's identity as Spider-Man and states that Peter is a clone of Reilly and should be killed since he's the closest thing to Ben. Peter beats Raptor unconscious and escapes. It is later shown that Raptor lied to Kaine about being able to cure his degeneration to gain an ally in his quest for revenge. Furious, Kaine started to choke Raptor, seemingly killing him. Grim Hunt Kaine is next seen being hunted by Anna Kravinoff and Alyosha Kravinoff. Their next attempt to hunt Kaine succeeds in brutally beating him. He barely escapes with his life, the Kravinoffs mocking that he will be the only spider left. Even if you are an ugly one. Kaine manages to get to Peter's apartment to warn Peter that they, the spiders, are being hunted before he falls unconscious. Later that night, after shaving his beard and cutting his hair, Kaine aids Spider-Man, Arachne, and Anaya Corazon against the Kraven clan. After the Kravens abduct Aero ±A and Arachne, Kaine tells Peter to run. Run and screw the rest. Disgusted at Kaine's selfishness even when the two of them shared DNA and memory, Spider-Man bluntly informs Kaine that the difference between them is the fact that he doesn't use his life's misery as an excuse to give up the good fight. After Spider-Man is lying, defeated, in an open grave with the Kravens advancing, Kaine knocks him unconscious, puts on his costume, and fights the Kravens in his place. He is mauled, stabbed, and ultimately sacrificed to bring Kraven the Hunter back from the dead, thus achieving redemption with his last acts to save his brother. The Kravens do not realize they have killed the wrong spider until later that night when Kraven recognizes the scent of Kaine, and they unmask the dead Spider-Man. As a result of this, Kraven is now undead and can only be killed by the original Spider-Man. After the battle with the Kravenoffs, Kaine is buried under the name Kaine Parker. However, in the epilogue of Grim Hunt, Kaine is shown climbing out of his own grave with mutated features, including extra eyes and a spider-like pattern on his forehead, with a narrative box saying "Rise, Cursed One. Rise. Tarantula." This is later shown to have been spoken by the Jackal, who was present at Kaine's resurrection. Spider Island During the Spider Island storyline, Kaine is further mutated by the Jackal into a hulking spider-like creature, a man's body, with a spider head, covered head to toe in spider hair, with 4 spider legs projecting from his back. The Jackal makes him the first of his army of individuals to use during Spider Island and dubs him Tarantula. As Tarantula, he is put under the control of the Spider Queen, acting as a personal bodyguard and henchman to the Jackal. Knowing about the genetic relationship between Kaine and Peter Parker, the Queen sends Kaine to Horizon Labs, to tamper with a cure being developed there for the spider virus. This culminates in a battle with Peter Parker, after which he's forcefully submerged in the pool of highly concentrated cure. Kaine re-emerges, his mind link with the Spider Queen broken, a fully healed clone of Peter Parker. Despite the serum somehow curing him of every trace of his former degeneration, including his heavily scarred skin, Kaine claims to have retained his powers and abilities. In the final chapter of Spider Island, Kaine, now fully cured and seemingly a perfect clone in every way Ben Reilly was, helps take down the Spider Queen. Kaine and Peter grab costumes from Peter's lab, Kaine opting for the Sonic Shield big-time outfit as the two head off. While Peter goes to the Empire State Building with Mary Jane to cure New York, Kaine stays behind with the Avengers to fight the Spider Queen. As Peter weakens the Spider Queen, Kaine and Ms. Marvel attempt a move that she had originally perfected with Spider-Man. She swings Kaine by a web and launches him at the Spider Queen. Kaine turns on his sonic shield to protect himself from the Spider Queen's sonic scream as stingers erupt from his arms and he goes through her throat, delivering the killing blow. The other powers were confirmed in a conversation between Peter and Kaine, which Kaine said that he died and came back with all these new powers that Peter confirmed he had been there and done that. After the battle, Kaine evades the other heroes during the aftermath of the battle using the suit, but Madame Web is able to see him regardless, and talks to him about his future. Kaine meets up with Peter at the airport where he is seeing off Aunt May, unmasked and free of his former degeneration, only looking slightly more disheveled and taller, much like Ben Reilly was in the Lost Years arc. Kaine informs Peter he is leaving New York, and that he is keeping the stealth suit due to Madame Web's advice. Scarlet Spider. It was revealed in the Marvel .11 shot that Kaine is the new Scarlet Spider in his own ongoing series. This was confirmed by editor Stephen Wacker in the letters to the editor page of The Amazing Spider-Man number 673. Having been cured of his mutation, but not his spider powers, he takes up the mantle Scarlet Spider, and moves to Houston, Texas. Although planning to simply pass through the city and move on to Mexico, he was distracted when he discovered a human trafficking ring while attempting to steal money from criminals. Kaine managed to save the only girl still alive in a shipping container that had been used to smuggle her group into America. Kaine subsequently abandoned his plans to leave the city when the hospital where he left the victim was attacked by a fire-manipulating assassin who intended to kill the girl, Reilly. The policeman and the doctor who attended her case inspired Kaine to remain in Houston to help them face the city problems as its only superhero and to take Reilly with him, reasoning that if she were to stay under their case, she would be eventually deported and then be easy prey for whoever sent the superpowered assassin after her, but as vigilante, Kaine was not honor-bound to follow the law in that regard. However, after he is attacked by the Assassin's Guild following a past incident where he killed on their territory without permission, Kaine is forced to make a deal with Belladonna, where he agrees to perform one assassination for her in the future in return for her leaving him and his new friends alone. Without his Scarlet Spider outfit, Kaine finds himself face-to-face with Anna Kravinoff, who tries to kill Kaine before informing him that her father, Kraven the Hunter, is coming for him and there is nothing he can do. Madame Web's vision at the end of the issue confirms that dark times are coming for Kaine as the Kravens plan their next move. Later, he gets involved with Racon Energy Corporation after the daughter of the CEO blows up the top floor of Racon's office building with a missile. In his investigation of the events, he storms the CEO's offices and ends up fighting the hero Team Rangers. He later allies with them when they discover that Racon had accidentally released an energy being from the ground in one of their oil platforms. To contain it, the company had acquired the services of human traffickers to feed the beast with human sacrifices. To both avenge a Japanese girl who was murdered by her captors and the criminals behind the treatment of Reilly, Kaine investigates and attempts his best to stop human trafficking operations running through Houston. Shortly after, Reilly starts to manifest weird dreams concerning the sixth creation, Aztlan, her missing parents, gods, a talking coyote and the rise of Mictlan. Taking a stroll through the park to discuss this strange change, she and Kaine are attacked by the Lobo, drug cartel leaders, the human traffickers behind Reilly's abduction and werewolves sent with the intent of killing her by the mysterious Mr. Moctezuma so the sixth creation could begin. During the fight Reilly escapes but Kaine is beaten and eventually killed. However, in death he encounters Zero, from the other story arc, who states she can return him to life only if he embraces the other. Kaine at first rejects Zero but realizes that Reilly still needs his help, so he agrees. In the real world, Kaine bursts out of a web cocoon, reborn not as before, but as a monstrous spider creature. The spider creature Kaine maims one of the two werewolves, forcing them to flee. He then attacks Reilly until she is able to use her mental powers to bring him back. Kaine breaks out of the husk of the spider creature completely healed of all scars but still carrying the other inside him. It is then that Reilly proclaims him as her champion, a title that is not merely effective but also has a deeper meaning as hinted by her father's words and the strange portents with cryptic Aztec mythic symbolism in her dreams. When Kaine is forced to see a rodeo by Reilly, Wally, and Donald, he fights a drunken armadillo who is trying to reconnect with his ex-girlfriend. When Kaine sees Armadillo's ex-girlfriend accept him back despite being a monster, he realizes he can have somebody in his life and he later kisses Annabelle. Unknown to Kaine, Sergei and Anna Kavanagh watched him fight Armadillo, and Annabelle had destroyed a letter from Julia Carpenter warning him to leave Houston. After settling debts with the Assassin's Guild and encountering the superior Spider-Man, Kaine's scars returned. This was however a trick by Kraven the Hunter, who had drugged Kaine so he had hallucinate the scars return, as well as for a brief time seeing Kraven as Ben Reilly. After Kaine worked out he was being played, he fought the hallucination, eventually seeing Kraven's face in a replica of Ben Reilly's costume. Kaine prepared to fight again, unaware that Kraven and his daughter Anna had kidnapped Reilly, Annabelle and all his friends. As his fight with Kavanagh went on, it turned out Kraven wanted to settle the score with Kaine because Kaine's blood was used to resurrect Kraven, and by using his blood Kraven was cursed into unlife and wanted to fight Kaine to the death, using his friends as a leverage should he refuse. Kaine's friend Donald is disemboweled when this happens. Kaine kills then revives Kraven as a punishment, and then a Kraven escapes with his daughter. Donald is then placed in intensive care, but the guild threatens to overcome Kaine. After saving his friends once more when his hotel room is destroyed by the daughter of Recon CEO with a rocket-propelled grenade while they were in the middle of an attack by the mystic entity Shathra and an arrest attempt by Wally, Kaine is forced to use the form of the other once more in front of them, scaring away Annabelle. Overwhelmed by all these events occurring at the same time and his guilt, Kaine stops trying to be a hero in Houston and decides to go to Mexico with Reilly to help her find if her parents are alive and the truth of every mystery regarding her they have come across. New Warriors Kaine along with Hummingbird join the New Warriors. Spider-Verse During the Spider-Verse storyline, Kaine was with the New Warriors in Eastern Europe when we are attacked by demos of the Inheritors. A family of spider totem hunters, the Inheritors, were tightening their noose on the spiders across the multiverse, including Kaine, despite him being a clone of Peter Parker and the receptacle of the other. After Demos defeated the New Warriors, Kaine attempts to impale him through the chest with spikes coming from his arm, as the other spider monster within was inclined to take over. Demos realized that unlike other spiders, Kaine's arsenal makes him feel pain. As Demos realizes that Kaine is the current receptacle of the other, believing he could savor the spider essence within Kaine for days, he is suddenly by the group of other spiders including Old Man Spider-Man, Spider-Man of Earth 70105, and Spider-Woman of Earth 65. Kaine is skeptical at first, believing these are clones sent by his father, the Jackal. Suddenly, this version of Ben Reilly informs Kaine that they are other versions from across the multiverse, which surprised Kaine, as his brother, Ben Reilly of the 616 universe was murdered by Green Goblin. Demos then breaks Spider-Man of Earth 715's spine and Kaine escapes with the into a portal to Earth 13, which was the safe zone. At the safe zone, the pheromones of Kaine's spider essence is recognized by Silk. After collaborating with the other spiders, it becomes clear that the Inheritors have mastered cloning technology, as they regenerate with the same memories into new cloned bodies. As Black Widow of Earth 1606, Ben Reilly and Kaine are all clones. They head the mission to Genex's realm to infiltrate his cloning facility in the Baxter Building. After disabling that reality's Johnny Storm and Tony Stark, the clones then attempt to take on Genex in the cloning facility. After Kaine killed Genex with spikes coming from within, Genex would regenerate in the cloning caskets. After realizing that the top of the Baxter Building was the receiver that transferred the consciousness of deceased Inheritors into newly cloned bodies, Ben Reilly sacrificed himself to remove the Inheritors' safety net. After losing Ben Reilly a second time, Kaine began to feel the other emerging and took off to Loomworld to face the Inheritors alone. While coming face to face with the Inheritors, Kaine had spikes emerge from his body and he killed Solus, the patriarch of the Inheritors. In retaliation, Morlun killed Kaine in his other form by ripping off one of his spider arms and impaling him in the skull. As the Inheritors require the bride, the scion and the other, which was Kaine, for the ceremony, Kaine's body was required for his blood to be used in the coming ritual. After the other spiders defeat the Inheritors and imprison them in the bunker within Earth 3145, Khan was revealed to be a future Master Weaver. After Past Calm takes his place as the Master Weaver and sends all the spiders to their home realities except for Spider UK and Spider-Girl, the deceased spider husk of Kaine suddenly has a humanoid hand stick out, revealing that Kaine is still alive. Powers and abilities. As Kaine as an imperfect clone of Spider-Man, Kaine has superhuman strength, speed, agility, reflexes, and equilibrium, all at higher levels than Spider-Man due to his continued mutation. The true limit of his strength is unknown, but he has proven able to beat the Rhino unconscious and to hold his own against 3 Spider-Men at the same time. Kaine's durability is also superior to Spider-Man's, as he was able to withstand a massive explosion without any form of discomfort. He also tanked a full power blow from Spider-Man, without so much as flinching, as well as a bullet to the shoulder which barely slowed him down. His precognitive spider sense is more developed than that of Spider-Man. Where Parker and Reilly can sense immediate danger, Kaine can actually see short glimpses of the future. Kaine also does not set off Parker or Reilly's spider senses, but they do not set off his either. He uses his clinging ability primarily to burn a distinctive scarring into surfaces, which he calls the Mark of Kaine. After defeating an enemy, usually resulting in death such as breaking their neck using his superhuman strength, he would burn the Mark of Kaine onto their face. Notable characters to have been defeated in such a fashion include Dr. Octopus. This ability also allows him to melt Spider-Man's webbing, and on at least one occasion he was able to use this talent to cauterize a potentially fatal throat wound. Additionally, Kaine possesses 2 retractable claws on the backs of each hand, which he calls the Sting of Kaine, reminiscent of Wolverine's bone claws, though their exact composition is unknown. Kaine also uses his ability to stick to walls in other ways. In one instance, he fashioned a weapon out of a large section of a building by simply sticking to the building and then pulling away with his superhuman strength, bringing a large chunk of it with him. Due to flaws in his genetic makeup, Kaine does not look like an ordinary human, his skin covered with a web-like massive disfiguring scars. The costume that Kaine typically wears has been said to slow the degeneration process in his body. However, it was recently suggested in Spider Island, Deadly Foes, that Kaine has a regeneration factor. Being a clone of Spider-Man, Kaine is immune to the worldwide mind purging of Spider-Man's identity and retains this knowledge. However, Kaine was never implanted with Peter's memories and as a result of that lacks Peter's scientific knowledge. As Tarantula the extent of Kaine's powers in his tarantula state are not fully known. Tarantula has 4 large spider legs that protrude from his back, much like Spider-Man's Iron Spider costume. He retained all of the abilities he had as Kaine, with the addition of organic web shooters and presumably enhanced strength. Following the loss of his tarantula form during Spider Island, his degeneration is currently reversed. Kaine now looks to be a perfect clone of Peter Parker, and while he cryptically claims to have retained his spider powers, it was still unknown if he maintained them at the same power level prior to being resurrected as Tarantula. He also had a similar rebirth to Peter Parker was during the events of the other, as Kaine is shown exhibiting forearm stingers and organic webbing near the end of the Spider Island story. As the Scarlet Spider in addition to having augmented levels of strength, speed, and agility, Kaine has organic webbing and lost his scars to have a normal appearance. He also has the ability to see in the dark, as well as some form of communication with insects and spiders. From his former powers, Kaine appears to still have the Mark of Kaine, using the ability to burn off his beard and most of his hair, and retains the 2 retractable stingers on the inside of each wrist. After the events of Spider Island, Kaine retained the stealth suit, which Peter Parker created at Horizon Labs and used against the Spider Queen. This gives Kaine invisibility to both visual and audio means, along with immunity to sonic-based attacks. However, Madame Web did something to it so that the suit is stuck permanently in red, helping perpetuate the alias Scarlet Spider around Houston. Kaine no longer has his enhanced spider sense to see future events. This ability was lost following the events of Spider Island, which reset his power levels to what Spider-Man had during the events of the other. Also, he no longer has his regular spider sense, and must rely solely on his normal senses and superhuman reflexes to avoid serious injury. When Kaine came face to face with hunters of spiders totems such as Shathra and the Inheritors, he would transform into the other as a giant man-spider. Kaine has also gained the ability to have spikes shoot from his arms when in the presence of any of the Inheritors. Other versions MC2 in the alternate future known as MC2, Kaine successfully rescues baby May from Norman Osborn and returns her to her parents. Later, Kaine allies himself with the kingpin of crime, but is betrayed by him during a confrontation with Daredevil. Daredevil sacrifices his own life to save Kaine. Kaine takes Daredevil's body to a regeneration chamber, where he is also attempting to assist Riley Tyne, the son of Ben Reilly, who is degenerating as a result of his imperfectly cloned father's DNA. He attempts to summon the demon Zarathos to aid him in saving the two, but in the end, Zarathos turns on him and attempts to claim the boy's body as his human vessel. The soul of Daredevil fights the demon, and in the end Riley Tyne is transformed into Dark Devil, with the soul of a hero and the powers of a demon. Kaine attempts to kill the Kingpin but is stopped by Spider-Girl and sent to prison. There, he is recruited by Special Agent Arthur and is part of a team of captured supervillains given the opportunity to redeem themselves by working for the government. Those under his command include Big Man and Quickwire, and formerly Raptor and Normie Osborn. Kaine appears to be genuinely interested in reformation, and has since been supportive of Spider-Girl and acted as an advisor to her. Spider-Girl is clueless about her genetic relationship with Kaine, although Kaine hinted at it in their first encounter. It's implied that Dark Devil does know the truth, however, once commenting on Kaine's twisted notions of simple concepts like family. Later on it has been revealed that Dark Devil indeed does know about Kaine's connection to his deceased father, going as far as to refer to Kaine as Uncle Kaine. He however has not mentioned any of this to his cousin Sister May. In the comic's final story arc, and a replica of May appears on the scene, a comment is made about trying to find out which one is the real May Parker, to which Kaine comments, "Are you saying clones aren't real?" Spider-Man, Clone Saga Kaine appears during the miniseries exploring the Clone Saga as it was originally conceived. He is working for both a shadowy figure and Jackal for unknown reasons and attacks Ben Reilly and Peter Parker when they first meet. After Jackal targets Mary Jane, Kaine leads them to Jackal's lair, only for all three to be captured. It is at this point that the two learn that Kaine is another Parker clone. When Kaine sees Gwen Stacy being cloned, he breaks all three free before burning the mark of Kaine into Jackal's face and breaking his neck. When the building explodes, Kaine escapes, having stolen both Jackal's clone stabilizing agent and a second pod containing an unknown clone for his shadowy boss. The figure is later revealed to be a still-living Harry Osborn, with the pod containing a clone of his father. The duo have Dr. Octopus make a clone stabilizing agent. Later, Kaine is shown obtaining the infant May from Alison Mungrain for Harry. He begins having doubts over Harry's plans when he holds the baby. After more soul-searching, he finally convinces himself to defy Harry's orders and returns the baby to Mary Jane before escaping. Ultimate Marvel In the Ultimate Marvel alternative universe, Kaine is a misguided and disfigured clone of Peter Parker. He kidnaps Mary Jane and attempts to give her superpowers. He is killed after Fury's Spider Slayers shoot while he tries to prevent them from taking Mary Jane. Although never stated in the comic, his name is revealed in Ultimate Secrets. He also wears a tattered version of Ben Reilly's Spider-Man costume. Kaine possessed superhuman strength, reflexes, and equilibrium. Like Spider-Man, he can stick to most surfaces and had a danger warning spider sense. In other media television In the series finale of Spider-Man, the animated series, Spider-Carnage was mirrored to have Kaine's role of a rogue clone that the mainstream Spider-Man was destined to stop from destroying all reality. Kaine will appear as Scarlet Spider in Season 4 of Ultimate Spider-Man, voiced by Scott Porter. Video games Kaine's Scarlet Spider outfit is unlockable in The Amazing Spider-Man. Kaine appears in his Scarlet Spider character in the video game Spider-Man Unlimited. References. External links Kaine at marvel.com, Kaine at Marvel Wikia, Kaine's profile at spiderfan.org, The Clone Saga Timeline.